Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5A. We are going to do a garden tour. It's the first day of fall, officially. And we're kind of on the tail end of our little Minnesota heat wave, or upper Midwest heat wave. Now it started to cool down, although we had a real slow-moving storm system come through. We got a bunch of rain, which we needed, so glad for that. So it's cool today, but humid. Dahlias are looking fabulous, spectacular. This is the spot to grow dahlias in my yard, evidently. We've got the mystery short ones that are not at all what they're labeled, but they're really cute. I'm saving those tubers for sure. I might, these white ones that were supposed to be a pink cactus style dahlia, don't know. I'll probably save the tubers. We'll see what happens. It's questionable whether the tubers actually make it through winter anyway, but yeah, the cafe au laits over here, whichever varieties I got between the cream and the pink ones, are so gorgeous. So gorgeous. And I've been cutting from them, and you can just see they're full of buds. So I didn't have luck growing dahlias behind the garage, kind of in that garden on the south side back there, which is where I tried for a couple years. That soil just stays like wet all the time, and dahlias do not like to be constantly wet. So even though it gets less sun here, it gets enough, and they're doing great. So really happy about that. I did bring home another carload full of sale perennials and other things. These ball dahlias, aren't these cute? Golden scepter. This plant's massive. I have like 5 or 6 stakes in it, and it's still tipping over. That was a huge tuber clump, and I really need to figure out how to separate that. It's so tight with so many tubers in there that I can't even really tell where to separate it, but I'm going to have to next year if it survives. And this little one is blooming now, these little open-faced dahlias that the bees love. Here's a better close-up of the white one. I mean, it's very pretty. It's a nice white dahlia. I have no clue what it is. So we'll see, but they all kind of tipped over back here. Next year, I'll have a little space to plant a couple dahlias, maybe a couple tubers, or maybe something else. This grouping next year will have, I'm going to plant this hibiscus in here. I want to say this one is called Evening Rose. No, I can't remember. But that's it, like one of the big hardy hibiscus, summerific ones. You can see the perennials. So yesterday I picked up this plant, and there was a bumblebee. It was overcast and kind of cool, so of course the bumblebees like to nap, and bee stung me right on the face, so that was fun. I iced it right away. Luckily I didn't swell up like one of those dogs that eats a bee, but yeah, that wasn't pleasant. Now luckily it's not very swollen. It's slightly, but you can't really tell unless you're looking for it. There's just a big red blotch, and it's real itchy. Coreopsis, Home Depot started 50% off their perennials. Not like the seasonal mums or asters or anything that they have in, which are sort of mildly hardy here, but I went and picked up a bunch of stuff. Bachman's has 25% off perennials. It's that cool Virginia. I did pick up a couple things for half off. At Bachman's, they have like select annuals, or perennials, I mean. So they have clematis. So I picked up another one to put on my fence. Olympia is the name. And then grasses. I got another grass to put in my little clump in the back. Otherwise, just more perennials from Home Depot. These are from the Garden City Garden Tent, if you're local. Some betony plants. And I like Home Depot once they do their 50% off, because they continue getting perennial shipment till late in the season. So I don't think they get any now, but like they still have pretty darn good selection. I did get another one of these that I'm going to try in the back garden. Hopefully, this poor one. I mean, I'm leaving it for the blooms because I have this thing, but the kittens just like took that one out this year with all their playing. These tend to split open, but later in the season, these are the Rockin'. Look at all the bees on them. Rock and Grow. I always want to say Play in the Blues. Oh, here's one. Rock and Grow Back in Black. Sedum. It's like, I know it's a song title. Yep, that's what those are. So I picked up another one for the back garden. as well as a coral jade sedum, which I'm going to give a try because I really like the lemon jade. I also, annuals at the Garden City Garden tent. If you're in the Twin Cities, there are 3 tents left open, it says on their website. Rosedale, White Bear, and maybe Golden Valley or something like that over on the other side of town. They have all their annuals are $2. Their bigger ones are $3. 50% off perennials. I got a bunch of stuff. By Swingers, I stopped by. I got this cute little chicken, and I got a bird bath. They're discounting everything. I have a feeling I don't know if they're not going to carry as much or if they're not going to have a garden center. They converted into an Ace, By Swingers Ace Hometown Hardware or something like that. So who knows what they'll have next year, but all their concrete statuary is 50% off. I got some weeds over here to pull. This is looking a little tired. You can kind of see the difference. So this is the Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow. And I didn't give this one a hard trim mid-season. I just trimmed it now because of all the rain. So a lot of the blooms on our plants right now are kind of plastered down because of the hard rain. But it's looking a little tired, a little leggy. If we had a longer season, I would give it a really hard trim. This one still looks magnificent, my hanging basket. And I have got monarchs everywhere. Like there's one right there. They're just flying all over the place. I'm sure, I don't know if this is, I'm guessing this is the super generation, which is the last generation that will be born up here, or hatch, I guess, up here in the northern climates, and will make their way down to Mexico where they overwinter. When I studied in Mexico in college, we got to visit. There's a place called Las Monarchas, where all the monarchs overwinter. And it was magical. It was so pretty. And they really try hard to make it limited ecological impact of humans as well, which is great. My coleus, a big branch broke off, but that's okay. This was free. And I got another petunia that's seeded. It looks like this one got nailed by the lawnmower. Another of those purple petunias self-seeded in there. But this is the difference with the same Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow that got a really hard trim about a month ago. And it's looking much fuller, full of blooms despite the rain. It was even more full of blooms before they all got plastered. We got like downpouring rain. So that's the benefit. If you can, it's hard to stomach it sometimes, just lopping off, because you'll have a plant without blooms for about 2-3 weeks, but it really extends the life of the plant hugely to much later in the season. They just really benefit from a cutback. I love this Lysmachia. This is the Waikiki Sunset. That one is fabulous, and that can take full sun. This, however, cannot. The Hippo Estes polka dot plant, this poor thing. The one branch that's kind of shaded in the back is doing good, but not so much the rest of them. This sedum also, it splits open partly because it's not in full sun, but look how bright the blooms are. That is one of the rock and round sedums from Proven Winners. Maybe when I expand this bed, I can pull it out a little further so it gets a little more sun. But that blue, minty, bluish green foliage and those bright pink blooms are so pretty. I think that one's called Pop Star. So, popping back to the back, I noticed a squirrel, I think. So I have a sunflower that planted itself. Those are the remains. The bloom kind of leaned over, and I think it was low enough that a squirrel could snatch it, which is fine. That's why I let them grow, so the squirrels can enjoy. There's lovely monarch. I think I showed this. Oh, yay! Finally, some blooms opening. The snake root, very late to bloom. Back there, pretty dark foliage with the white blooms. I love when Hakanakloa puts on the seed heads too. It's so gorgeous. Like, you see that texture on those seed heads? So pretty. That one I think is all gold. Otherwise, things are looking good. I'm looking forward. The toad lilies, I know, bloom very late in the season. I have them kind of hidden back here. So looking forward to that. I went over this area last week, but it definitely needed rain pretty bad over here. This is where there's a lot of root competition, so it stays pretty dry. This is like a drier shade area. So the rain did a whole lot for these plants, and my tree I was getting sick of watering. As you can imagine, it takes quite some time. Love this annual Rudbeckia. Look at this pretty yellowy one that bee is enjoying. These are so gorgeous. I did lose 2 of them to wilt this year. Another one withered and I pulled it out. The rest are doing fine. And these 2 that planted themselves. I'm torn on whether, I think I will deadhead these foxglove. I don't really need them to reseed over here. So yeah, and I've got plenty of seeds. They're very easy to start. Lungwort Trevi Fountain, looking spectacular. There's not slug damage, but grasshopper damage on that one, unlike the hostas, which are more slug damaged. And I have a couple of these. These are so pretty. This is Gomphrena, the raspberry cream, I think. I always forget the name. It's raspberry something. But I love how it has a pink bloom with that white center. Gomphrena is really easy to save seeds too, and very easy to start. These are start from seed. I do find the seeds are kind of, well, they're encased in like this, the papery. They're kind of like dry papery blooms, and you'll see they'll start, when they get old, they'll get long, and like the bottom, the seeds will kind of start falling off from the bottom of the bloom. And they make tons of seed. You can collect it very easily. And you can leave the paper on or not. It doesn't matter. I usually do, so I can remember then you can remember what color the bloom was, because it dries. It keeps its color when it dries. So if that makes sense. Anyway, to start the Gomphrena seeds, I wet a paper towel and wring it out. And whoops, I got hosta leaves. I was trimming hostas. Left those sitting there. There we go. I'll have to clean those up. So I wet a paper towel, wring it out, kind of lay out the seeds on half of the towel, and then I sandwich the seeds between the 2 halves of the paper towel. And stick that in like a little plastic baggie or something and just let it sit. Usually about a week, at least a day or 2 minimum. But even if I let it sit for a good week, the seeds will start sprouting in there. And then you can just plant them. They don't have to be planted very deep. But even when they're sprouting, they do very well. So that's what I've found the best way. I get the most germination when I've done that. These mums are starting to open. These were sold as annuals, but I just planted them and they keep coming back. Well, the red one does. This one I've had in a pot that I've overwintered, kind of orangey. That's why it's looking stressed. The Diacia was just absolutely loaded with white blooms until we got pounding, downpouring rain, and a lot of those petals got knocked off. So it's looking a little bare again, just slightly. But still some blooms. Halcyon hosta looking much better. It was getting a little sunburned earlier. I guess the leaves are more green than blue, but they don't look so splotchy anymore. Most of the echinacea now is going to seed. There's just a few blooms here and there. I stopped pruning or deadheading kind of by the end of August, early September. This Helenium now is going out of bloom. Just a little color left. That blooms for a pretty long time. Firelight's looking spectacular, as always. And then Boom Chocolate Geranium, just beautiful foliage all year round. You can see I can cut off these bloom head. That's probably 1 bloom spike. It might throw up another one, but like it just keeps throwing up blooms all summer too. Yeah, the Firelight's looking gorgeous. They're especially dark pink this year. Extra vibrant color with the cold snap that we had at the beginning of the month. And Firelight tends to stay, I prune all my hydrangeas are panicle hydrangeas, so I prune them all the same at the same time, kind of late spring or late winter, usually early spring, maybe April sometime. But these tend to have the strongest stems. Between this and the little Quickfire that I have up front, they flop a little bit. These do, sometimes the blooms get weighed down. So little Quickfire is your best bet. They really don't get weighed down at all. But even some of these stems with the large blooms stay upright, more so than the little limes, the bobos, the limelight, anything else that I have. There's a Noisy vehicle. So yeah, firelight if you're concerned about floppage. Lime, this is a little lime. It does pretty well too, but you can see it has flopped over quite a bit. This one's in more sun, so I think it probably grows stronger stems and stays more upright compared to the one I have in the back garden behind me, which is a little more shade. This is dark night ember sedum, one of my favorites. That has just done awesome for me in the garden. It's so wet this year that a lot of the sedum are kind of having mildew and defoliating a little bit, which they don't typically do for me in drier years. But you know, other things like the rain, so you win some, you lose some. I'd much rather have a rainy year than drought. It's much easier to deal with the rain than it is drought, in my opinion. Pentas, this was a clearance one that I popped in here. My drift rose has kind of, excuse me, kind of flopped over on top of those. But I got a nice little second flush of bloom on the Veronica here. Since I hacked that all the way back, it was having lots of mildew issues. This zinnia too, this is a proven winner zinnia that I got on clearance because the you can kind of see where the goldenrod is planted. I have 3 of those. They got mildew so bad, so I cut them all the way back. Normally I would have goldenrod here, but this one not doing so great with the mildew issues. I mean, it's still blooming, but I would not say it's mildew resistant compared to some of the other varieties I grow, like the Zahara zinnias. This is a Zahara one. Now it's kind of split open, but those long, narrow, these are excellent mildew resistance. Any of the Zahara zinnias that I've grown. We've got the ageratum. This is Aguilera Sky Blue, and this drift right here just blooms nonstop all summer. So I planted it, you know, in the spring when it was in bloom. And then those blooms, normally it kind of does the cover your dead, where it'll bloom and then the next set of blooms kind of rise above the old ones. So it kind of, or buries the dead. So the dead blooms kind of get buried under the fresh ones a little bit. Except for after I first plant it, those blooms kind of fade. And then it takes a little bit to get going before it reblooms. So those I do tend to deadhead. I just sit here and snip off some of the brown ones that first flush, but after that's usually the only time I have to do that. And I don't even have to, it would come back. Blooms are fading now on the Drops of Jupiter oregano, but they kind of have still this beautiful texture, lacy looking texture to the blooms, the seed heads. And yes, they produce plenty of seeds. My bean beast is out of control. I just harvested a bunch of beans. I have said this before, but I got a surprise. Apparently in my set of bush bean seeds that I planted, the same kind that I've grown for years, there was a pole bean in there, a random stray seed. So that's why I don't have a proper trellis up. I'm just trying to do what I can. By the time I realized, it was a little too late I would have had to do a total overhaul, and I already got them in late, so I didn't want to do that. We've got aster bloom started on the woods blue, likely woods blue anyways. You can see all the buds. This is just covered in blue blooms. Just be warned though, this, at least for the woods blue variety, this gets way bigger. I mean, plan on 3 times the size at least of what it says on the tag. That is what this one has done, and it didn't take very long to do that. Maybe by 2nd or 3rd year, it kind of took over this whole space. So it's nice planting in the fall though, because you know, if I try planting around all of these things, and even back here where I'm putting in some more perennials, I can't really see how big things are. My memory is not great for truly how big things get by the end of the season, how much room they take up. So having this here, it allows me to figure out how to orient everything that I plant around it by planting perennials in the fall. And for me, they tend to do better. They have less stress at transplant because we don't have heat anymore. We've got cool nights, so they like that. They can come out of dormancy. This Plectranthus is doing splendid in my pot here. I think I'll put the bird bath over in this area. I did plant another hardy hibiscus here. What is that one? It's a Proven Winners one as well. I forget the name of it. Pink, kind of pink and white blooms, I think. Yeah, pink and white. I don't remember which one it is, but I'm hoping, since this is where the soil stays really wet all the time, that it will like it here. And I won't have to deal with annuals failing all the time. But yeah, planting perennials in the fall. Then they have all winter to kind of grow their root system and root in, because the roots do stay active over winter. Not as active as during summer, but they are still rooting and growing and becoming stronger. And then in the spring, they can just come out of dormancy, and they don't need, like, naturally going into summer, they have all the warm-up period to acclimate, and they don't really need any extra attention, extra water necessarily, more so than anything else. So my marigold forest over here, all completely self-seeded. The only ones I planted from seed or from plants are the dwarf ones that I have planted with all my peppers in the containers. Otherwise, everything's self-seeded over here. And then the rain, because the pours off the roof down here. I wish I had them put a gutter on this wall too. But anyway, pours off the roof. So these were all upright, and I had a path, and now I don't. Now they've all tipped over. So can't really walk through here at the moment. We'll see. One of my friends makes natural dyes. She kind of does textile work as a hobby. So I might see if she wants to come and harvest a whole bunch of blooms. Then I'll cut these back. So we'll see what she says. Otherwise, they do okay in a vase. They're a decent cut flower. And let's see, everything looking good. This is where the spot where I got that purple sedum, the back and black sedum for. Because you can see, I mean, heuchera, as we know, is not great at returning. And these poor berry awesome, and these also got super chewed up by rabbits, like down to nubs this last winter. So I think there's kind of an empty space in the middle of them. I'm just going to plunk the sedum in there. We'll see how that one does. I don't know, early summer it gets full sun, and then kind of less sun as the season goes on and the sun gets lower in the sky. This is oregano. This is such a pretty, I love growing oregano, and it gets really pretty fall color too. That one is hot and spicy. I haven't grown that variety before, but just the regular like Greek or Italian oregano also gets really ornamental fall color. What a pretty trailer. And I can cook with it. We've got this little turtle head. Interesting that it's blooming like top to bottom. We'll see what it does in future years. But I had a yarrow there that just got way too much shade. So I did the turtle head. Turtle head likes a little bit of sun, but it's truly like a part shade perennial. Sun King Aurelia also blooms very late. You can see these cute little firework pom-pom blooms that it gets. Pollinators love these blooms. These will be covered in bees and wasps here shortly. They're just starting to open right now. Isn't that cute? Love those. I have 2 Sun King Aurelia. Be warned, they do get as big as the tag says. My newly planted lamb's ear is very happy with the rain that we got. This area, as are the hydrangeas, this area got really dry recently. We had a few weeks with very little rain, just enough to keep things going. But yeah, you can see this little lime splits open quite a bit, and it has huge blooms, which is fun. But I don't mind. I'm not going to try and replace these. I just keep pruning them back to keep the stem strong, and when they flop, I just make lots of bouquets with the bloom. So I still enjoy it. Same thing with the firelight. Actually, I need to start cutting flowers and drying them now from the firelight, because they'll preserve a lot of this color. They're at the stage now before they start turning brown. You can see some of them are getting some brown on their blooms. This is the perfect stage to cut flowers for drying. And to do that, I cut the stems, pull the leaves off, put them in a vase with just a little bit of water, an inch maybe, and just leave them in there and let the water dry up, and then the blooms dry kind of gradually. This GM is doing fabulous. I planted that earlier this summer. I'm really excited for, I hope my 2 new GM, I hope we have a good winter with some snow cover. They're saying with the weather patterns, we might get a very snowy winter, but we'll see. And I planted the second lady in red fern over there. And we'll swing back around, not too violently, hopefully. Not trying to make anybody ill. Yeah, look at the cool. Juniper is still looking good. I think it's all right. The Troutman juniper is doing better. I'll put another blast of magnesium, which is just like a teaspoon or maybe tablespoon of Epsom salts around it. Then it kind of slowly sinks in. I've done that maybe 3 times this summer because it was showing signs of magnesium deficiency. But look at how covered in berries it is. Isn't that cool? Love that. You can see all this salmon salvia that I planted around here to fill in the gap from the what's it called? Goldenrod. And I just can't believe how huge, even after a hard prune. So I shouldn't be afraid of pruning this shrub at all, this dogwood. And ooh, this is neat. So now is the season for orb weaver spiders. And I really just see them everywhere. There she goes. They're friends, not foes. They're good spiders in the garden, but you can't see it. There's a huge web going all the way across here. And little Miss Ma'am was just on there, but she has climbed and hid behind a leaf. Less berries this year. The nice thing about dogwood, if you don't prune them, is they get these cool berries. This one gets white berries. This is Garden Glow variety. But if you prune them, then they don't bloom as much, so fewer berries. And turtle head over here still looking good. Lots of aphid activity still on the honeysuckle. So I'm just going to have to be mindful. Last year I raked up a whole lot of leaves. Maybe I'll spray neem oil as I do that. I don't know if it's effective in the fall or not. But we can walk around up to the front. Container garden just looking great. Looking great. I need to try, I'm experimenting with overwintering a lot of annuals this year. Now that I have the grow lights. I always do I've done geraniums for several years. Plectranthus does great. Verbena, okay, as long as you don't let it dry out. So I'm going to up pot these to slightly bigger containers. Kufia, I've read, can overwinter well. Anything that's sort of a tender perennial in one of the U.S. zones is a good candidate for overwintering. Not everything, but some things. Some are harder than others. This is my plant stash for my friend. And look what I found at by Swingers. They have a bunch of these watering cans, the different characters, but I got Babs the pig for her. There's another stash of annuals that I got to overwinter, except for the grasses. Those I will put in my planter once the begonias die up in the front yard. So we'll go take a peek up at the front here. I think my friends are on their way over. So if I suddenly cut out, it's because they arrived. So poor smokebush tree. I don't know how you'll be able to see in the sun or not. Definitely has wilt or something going on. There are dead, dying branches on just about every limb. So I don't know. I'm making backup plans for next year or the year after in case this thing fails. I won't put in another smokebush tree. I'll get something else, maybe like an ornamental crab or something that I don't have to prune quite so much. I hope it doesn't, because even though the pruning is annoying, it's worth it. This is a beautiful, beautiful specimen plant here. So, but we'll see. I think my mom's been working on pulling the rocks away from the trunk and the landscape fabric, so I'll have to do a little bit more of that just to free up the roots. It's just landscape fabric and rocks are just awful. They're just awful. If you want to plant anything, don't put those in. They're so bad for plants. So bad for them. Probably should have done that years before, but it sucks pulling it out. That's the other thing. Mulch, when you want to remove it or change it up, that's easy, but rocks, that is hard labor. Very expensive if you hire it out. Very hard labor to do yourself as well. So my little dianthus kind of got all the blooms blasted off it in the rain too, but I'm hoping some of this comes back. I know this is like the annual dianthus that you buy in like 4-packs, 6-packs, whatever. But I have had that come back before. I think it's a tender perennial, or maybe just straight perennial in cooler zones. These begonias, however, won't, but they're filling in a bit now, just bronze leaf begonias over here. Yeah, you can see landscape fabric is like right up. I mean, it wasn't when it was planted, but of course, as it grows in the trunk, it's bigger. So I think I'm going to get in there with scissors and really cut that away too. It does nothing to, I mean, it'll suppress weeds like the first 1 or 2 years, but after that, things just grow on top of it or through it. These are still looking super fresh. My beautiful begonias with, I think that was golden globes. I think that's what it was, Lysmachia. And love these little pots. I'm glad I decided to test this out. The little begonia and pilea. So I'll do begonias here next year as well. This holder is a little bit twisted, so it's not the greatest for holding that, which is why I just have the pot on the ground. Beautiful in front of my boxwoods here. Get a closer look at the solar eclipse heucherella. These have been very long-lived. I've had these for 3-4 years up here now, and they do get a good snow pile. Any snow that we get gets piled up here from the sidewalk. So these have good snow insulation every year. But they do slowly turn more bronze over time. Over the summer, they start out bright green, with just a little bronze veining, and then the bronze grows and the bright green shrinks. So these begonias, I'm going to try to pick up some of these and maybe overwinter them. I don't know that I would have success. Maybe I could try digging these out. But when I overwinter plants, sometimes some plants I can dig out and overwinter successfully, but sometimes when the root systems are so huge, it's just really hard to get enough of it. So, but these have been, this is probably the best thing I've ever planted up here. They've been symmetrical and just full of blooms, and these got huge. These are just bronze leaf red begonias. Last year I grew bronze leaf rose, which is the pink one, and they did well too, but not this well. These are exceptional. So I definitely want to repeat that. I also have a few of them planted in the ground here. They got kind of surrounded by the Artemisia. That's a perennial Artemisia. My poor snapdragon, I should probably cut this. Broke. I should put that in a vase. These got really tall though. These are the Potomac lavender. They're huge. Just went tipped over in the rain. But otherwise, my hodgepodge area is doing good. Oh, there's a big spider web right here too, shimmering in the sun. Yeah, those orb weavers are really active. Kind of late summer, early fall. And I've got a little mum. I also picked up a dwarf aster, different from the woods blue. I'm hoping it stays closer to its tag size. But I want to plant that in here because I have a lot of space where I just have annuals for now as I kind of figure out what to do. But just having that bright pop late season is so nice. These are the little quickfire hydrangeas. And these are in just about full shade, and they still bloom like crazy. I love they sort of have a cool tone to their leaves, like a cool green. And then they have red stems. So really love these. Would plant these again for sure. And maybe if I have a spot that opens up somewhere where yet another hydrangea can fit, I'll pick up some more of these. And they do truly stay dwarf, at least for me. I mean, these were billed as 3 to 5 feet tall and wide at maturity, and they're about 4 feet tall, which I didn't want them coming up above the window level. So total hodgepodge over here. This opening act, I have 2 opening act phlox. I need to move that one forward so it's in more sun. But the opening act series just keep blooming. Now over here, I'm really glad all of these Rudbeckia seeded themselves because they still have color. These are annuals year round. Whereas now that the echinacea has gone out of bloom and gone to seed. And my little planter, the scavola this year didn't do as great. I planted several of them, and they started out really good, but I don't know if it's just the season or what. Last year I had planted one and it did fabulous. This year, not as much. Excited to see fall color. This is the String Theory Amsonia. This gets really bright gold color for fall. And then I like that these seed heads that I left up, these are iris. These are Caesar's brother, Siberian iris. They're turning brown. So very pretty and fallish. That was my goal. I wanted to see how they did, and I like it. I think I'll keep doing that. These geraniums were this is the Americana dark red. They were just loaded, bright red streak here. And of course the rain knocked off a lot of the blooms, but they'll rebloom. These I think I'm going to dig up along with the ones I have hanging from the fence in the back. And I think I'm going to try to paper bag overwinter these. This year I didn't have such a bad issue with budworms on the geranium. Last year I wanted to overwinter a lot of them because I grow a lot every year. But the budworms were so bad I didn't want to overwinter any eggs, so I only overwintered 2 geraniums. And I meticulously searched them for budworms and picked them all off. Strawberry blonde marigold. These will get darker and darker red, the blooms, as it gets cooler weather. And then the blue shadow Fothergilla looks really pretty, kind of mingled here with this henna coleus. Henna's a really good one. It gets really big, really nice color, and I don't know if I've deadheaded any of them yet. Blooms very late, so you don't have to worry about picking off the blooms on that one. And then we have another Vermillionaire Kufia that I popped in here once things went to clearance. I'm going to try to overwinter 2 of those. This area, all of these self-seeded marigolds, this is what I pulled out of the raised beds that had seeded themselves and transplanted here in the spring when I was getting ready to plant the raised beds. Otherwise, we've got balsam. This is Impatiens balsamina. This is what self-seeds all over back here. But this year, the feral cats, in their use of the space as a litter box, really disrupted quite a bit of the seeds, so I didn't get as many. But I did get a torch hydrangea that I'm going to plant here in this space. But you can see some of the balsam came up, some of it kind of late. Otherwise, I planted basically a whole flat of Victoria Blue Salvia. And then, because the cats were continuing to use the bare soil areas as a litter box, I also went out before all this balsam came up and picked up some 4-pack annuals on clearance. Really like this grass in here. That's just like a purple fountain grass. So I'll get more of those next year and pop that along the wall. But yeah, this at least, even though you can't really see it, at least it was cheap because the 4-packs were, there was a flat for $5 once they went to clearance, and then it kept the cats out of the soil. So no more litter box, which was the goal. And I kind of also wanted to test and see, because this area doesn't get a lot of rainfall. I just wanted to see what would grow, what would do well without having to. You can see I have a soaker hose there, but I try not to run it often because, of course, it's right next to the foundation. So only as desperately needed. And then the 3 ornamental cabbage did great this year. These I grow from seed. And foxgloves. Whole patch of foxgloves. Some of them have bloomed this year. Some may come back and bloom next year, but they will self-seed. Then I got a second flush of bloom on this little clematis. I have it climbing up the fence, and it kind of climbed into the tree, the shrub. Here it is climbing up the dogwood. And that's what they do. That's how a lot of people grow them. So I just let it, won't hurt anything. But look at that little cute little bloom cluster there. And yeah, I think I've got 3 different, or maybe 4 different. This is like a it might be like a Camelot purple variety that I bought and just allowed to go to seed. I have Dalmatian peach, and then probably Dalmatian cream over here too from previous years. I've grown all of those from seed before. This one's kind of a lavender, so I don't know if they're now cross-pollinating. I don't know if they do that, but anyway. And then this is an overdam Calamagrostis. My grasses are kind of looking rough this year. I don't know what the deal is. None of them look super, not as good as they normally do. But there we go. Updated garden tour. The very end of summer, beginning of fall here in Minnesota. Caramel heuchera, #1 recommendation for anybody wanting to plant heuchera. I have 2 of them and they have both done amazing. There's this one's, it's a very loud plane. It's a little guy flying kind of low. Oh, I got bugs on me now. There's another caramel kind of getting engulfed by things, but man, do they do well. This little hodgepodge area. I can't, oh, somebody caught a bee. Yikes. I don't know if they'll be able to free themselves or not, but little Miss Spider's there waiting. Do I interfere or let nature take its course? Everybody has to eat. I would prefer the spider catch mosquitoes and other pesky bugs. But, you know, just let Mother Nature do her thing, maybe. So, as I wander and ramble, again, thank you so much for watching and joining me. I hope your fall is going great. This is my little planter over here. I love this vinca. Vinca also overwinters very well. You just have to be mindful not to overwater, but not to let things dry out too much when overwintering. Snow Princess Alyssum is just amazing. Amazing plant. This whole area has just looked good all summer. So, thank you again for watching. I hope you have a great day and please subscribe.